We are live. Okay, welcome back to the Home Service Expert. My name's Tommy Mello, and today I have a guest visiting us from the North Pole. Stephen Knight, he's an expert at home improvement, franchising, and entrepreneurship. He's based in Alberta, Canada. He's a partner in Mosaic Home Services from 2016 to present, Downright Demolition. He was a partner still from 2019 to present. Five-star Holiday Decor partner from 2016 to present. Screensavers Incorporated partner from 2016 to present. And Color Envy Painting partner 2017 to present. Stephen Knight is a partner, like I said, at a lot of companies, an Edmonton-based incubator of home service improvement brands. Together, the partners at Mosaic are on a mission to build Canada's largest home improvement franchise network. Since 2016, Stephen and his team have invested in 10 home improvement brands, growing each by an average of 58% per year. Stephen is an active member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, YEC, which is Young Entrepreneur Council, the Global Shaper Communities, and he's been featured internationally in Forbes, among other publications. That's awesome, Stephen. I'm excited to get this podcast on the way. Sounds like you've really done a lot with the home service space. Why don't you tell us and the listeners about everything that you've been up to here these last 5 years?
Yeah, that's one heck of an introduction there, Tommy, and makes me sound a heck of a lot more impressive than I actually am. I'm just an entrepreneur in the home improvement sector like you, and I hope a lot of people who are listening. You can think of Mosaic like an umbrella. Underneath our umbrella, we have a series of home improvement brands. Right now, we've got 8. We're not a pyramid scheme. We're not an MLM. These are businesses that we've legitimately bought, we've purchased equity in, or we've started on our own with fellow partners and other entrepreneurs in the home improvement sector. We are highly specialized in terms of the businesses that we invest in and that we focus on. For example, we've got companies that are a little bit broad, like painting, and we've got companies that are very, very specific, like screen, window, and door maintenance. Ultimately, we live in a really fun environment. It's plus 40 degrees Celsius and it's minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know what the Fahrenheit conversion is, but it's really freaking cold. And we get crazy seasonality in our home improvement brand. So it's a lot of fun kind of working and growing to build Canada's largest kind of group of home improvement companies here.
I'm just adding this to the group. So you said something very interesting before we get too deep into this. You said some of them you start on your own, some of them you invest in. So some of them, in my opinion, that's Greenfield versus kind of the acquisitional model. Talk to me. What makes you want to start one versus buying into one? How do you establish that?
The biggest thing comes down to who the person is that you're investing with or you're starting with. If values align and if goals align and if long-term vision align, then it doesn't really matter if it's Joe Blow off the street that we happen to meet at a networking event that says, hey, I know a lot about the painting industry, but I don't have the capital or I don't want to take the risk on to start my own business. That's somebody we'd start with. If it's a business that is already established, then it comes down to what's the seller's motivation. Are they still actively involved in the business or not? Are they looking to pass it on to a second generation and they need help filling that gap? Ultimately, though, whether it's a startup or an acquisition or a partnership, we use something called the 4C model to evaluate whether or not it makes sense to bring a company under the Mosaic umbrella.
Yep. Right here, I was going to jump into the 4C model, but you made a perfect transition into it. So you've written about your 4C method. I want to really dive into what that looks like, 4 Cs.
Sure. So my team and I at Mosaic, we are on a very ambitious mission to grow one of Canada's largest home improvement franchise networks. And that can become very quickly out of control if you bring on brands or you start to service customers that are outside of your core competency and your core kind of niche of clients. So we ultimately sat down and looked at, what types of businesses and what types of revenue streams make sense for us to bring into the Mosaic umbrella. And we were able to identify 4 key things, or 4 key criteria that have to be checked in order to say, yes, it makes sense to add this new brand or add this new service offering. So the 4C model, it's not super complicated. It's not a financial algorithm. It's 4 boxes that need to be checked. It's your first one is C, customer. Who do I want my customer to be? If I'm looking at bringing on a new brand, or if I own a home improvement business and I'm looking to add a new service, am I offering it to the type of customer that I want to acquire more of? Not necessarily that the customers already have. The next is convenience. How convenient is it for me to begin offering this new service or to invest in this new business? Are there assets that I can use? Is there overhead? Can my bookkeeper keep up with the volume? Can my trucks be utilized for other things? How convenient is it for you? Cash flow is your next C, very important. Is the cash flow of this new industry that I'm entering, this new segment I'm entering, is it the same or is it better than the cash flow that I already have? Meaning, are customers paying me when I'm done, and can I sustain the cash flow requirements of this new, new service offering? And last is cross sale. We as entrepreneurs are wired to look for the next best thing. We're super excited all the time. We operate at level 10, and a lot of us don't stop to think, hey, this bright, shiny new opportunity is more valuable for me to use as a catalyst to bring more work into the revenue streams that I already have. So, for example, if I'm, washing windows, does it make sense for me to begin offering holiday lights or Christmas light installations? Well, can I acquire new Christmas light customers? Maybe that's a busier industry. Can I turn them into window washing clients? And is there that ability to cross sell there? So that's a little kind of high level overview of that 4C model. You got to check those 4 boxes in order for us to consider it a viable business to invest in.
Okay, I got the 4C model down, I think, here. I got it all written down. So there's so much. So when you start a franchise, explain to me what you mean by franchise. We all know what a franchise is, I think, but some franchises really, they'll give you a business in a box. They do all the marketing. They do the pay structure. They say, here's your customers. You're just doing the fulfillment. They got a training university, everything from soup to nuts, from the website to the LSA to the GMB ads to the pay-per-click to the academy to learn. And then there's other ones that say, look, we're going to give you a concept and you guys got to run with it. Explain to me what you're doing with your franchise models.
So what we're doing, we are more of the first solution there, soup to nuts, where we're covering all the boxes, we're checking all the boxes, and we're looking for service provider fulfillers. We are an incubator here. We invest in home improvement brands. We build home improvement brands. We get them to the point where they're doing between $1 and $2 million a year in revenue. Then we look at their business model and say, can this be franchised? Have we built something that's unique enough and solid enough that it can be franchised out to any entrepreneur in any city in Canada? Can they open it with profit from day number 1? And if the answer to that question is yes, then it's a business that we franchise. And I'm very proud to say that we've done that with one of our brands, a company called 5 Star Holiday Decor.
So what is the goal? People ask me, why didn't you franchise A1? Why? And I say, going back, maybe I would have, but now I like having full control. I've always heard the notion when you're in the franchise business, you're no longer in that niche that you went to be. You're now in the people business. So tell me, if you will, and I know there's pros and cons. We could do a complete plot here with a SWOT analysis, but explain to me, number one, I think $1 million to $2 million sounds great to do it 100 times very easily and do that with 10 models. That's billions of dollars. And then there's also the mindset of taking one and just making it the biggest, best. But why a franchise over just going organically and without a franchise?
Well, Tommy, to be very frank and very blunt with you, it's simply timeline. The owners and the group of investors here are on an accelerated timeline. We definitely have passionate people that we could take out of our environment and our ecosystem right now, parachute them into other cities and open corporate branches. But you know as well as I do, that takes a lot longer than taking the business model and empowering other people to run with it. We are on a mission to help entrepreneurs create their own dreams, build their own businesses, put their own kids through college. And this is the best way that we can do that.
Yeah, you're right. And you get paid up front. So it's kind of nice. I had a buddy of mine that wants to start a franchise that I might get involved in. And he said, look, we could get 500 franchises within 3 years It's a great concept. You get paid up front, which really allows you to acquire the talent you need. And then it keeps that constant roll of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% coming in. And then you really, I think the main thing of a franchise, as far as I'm concerned, I want to know your point of view. You got to have really, really good foundations, really good training, recruiting, CRM, good advertising, know how to make the phone ring, understand the contracts side of it. What are some of the bigger things that people don't even realize when they get involved in a franchise?
Oh man, a lot of people just don't realize the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into figuring out what works and what doesn't. And to your point, Tommy, about control, franchisees are quick to point out, hey, we could be better here, we could be better there, and that feedback is so critical. But a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into figuring out how it works the right way. So, a lot of franchisees need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, look at it and say, okay, well, it's probably done this way for a reason. There's a system for this for a reason. Let's follow that and let's see that through before we snap to any kind of, oh, hey, we're doing it wrong. I think that's an interesting piece. But ultimately, my job as a franchisor is to make the phone ring. If I'm not making the phone ring and if I'm not bringing in work for that franchisee, then I haven't fulfilled my commitment to them. And that takes a tremendous amount of talented work by people in our marketing team and our marketing development team. And that a lot of work goes into that. It's not just, oh, hey, I turned on Google and boom, here you are.
Well, let's dig into that. What are some of the marketing that you like? Because you're so involved in the day-to-day. I mean, obviously a franchise, to run that many franchises, I'd love to hear more on the marketing plan when you go into a new market. A lot of people ask me, Tommy, I'm thinking about expanding into a new city. What does that look like? And a lot of my time, a lot of my answer, Stephen, is, are you the biggest you could be where you're at in your own backyard? Because it's a lot easier to fix problems right here than it is, 10 hours away from here.
Definitely. And I think, Tommy, that my response to that in terms of, how do you market and how do you enter that market is really define what your backyard is. You can't just enter a market and say, hey, I'm for homeowners. Well, the homeowner market's really big and there's a lot of different kinds of homeowners there. The couple who are building their estate home that hire you to perform a service for them have different purchasing behaviors, expectations, budgets than the single mother that's calling you for a weekend service call. So you need to really narrow in on that marketing message to say, what are my core competencies? Who am I really for? And who am I going to service the heck out of? And once you figure that out, it becomes a lot simpler. Now I'm not wasting energy and time mass marketing, trying to find clients that I'm for.
So when I talked to my buddy Ken, big HVAC shop, he said, Tommy, I don't really do big mansions and estates. We'll go to it if they call us. We charge a lot of money for it. But he said, I'm looking for that dual income, $130,000. They got 2 kids. They live in a 3-4 bedroom, and it's a 5-ton unit. That's my HVAC client. And, we've done a lot of regression testing to really understand. It's kind of, you do it, you spray and pray, and then you narrow that down into your avatar. What's the best way to really look? We could all try to imagine what our perfect client looks like, but until you test it, how do you begin to really do that? And I think that's number one on your 4 C's.
Yeah, to identify who that core client is step number 1. That customer really needs to be dialed in to the point where you can physically picture them. And the best way to do it is physically get out of your chair or out of your car or out of your office and go to a job site. Go meet that customer. The only way that you're going to be able to picture who they are is to physically go there and figure it out. Don't rely on your service text. Don't rely on your Google reviews. Get out of your office and go figure out who that person is. Now, the bigger challenge that I see is the comment to your buddy Ken, we'll go do that job if they call us, can sometimes result in even worse things happening, because all of a sudden now you've picked up a customer that you don't really want, that has a different set of expectations, that has a whole different set of questions, and all of a sudden their expectations way up here when you're used to delivering here, or vice versa. You're way up here and they're way down here. So you got to be okay. You need to empower your team and you need to empower yourself to say, you know what, this customer is not for me. And I think that even important. Getting your car, figuring out who you are for. You need to start picking out who you've had bad experiences.
Internet's coming in a little fuzzy. I agree with that because I've gotten myself into things that. Let me just say this: I realize I'm not a Home Depot vendor. I realize I'm not great with home. The home warranty companies. I'm not great with commercial. I've taken on all of those and realized I'm chasing my tail and not making a lot of money, and it's a waste of my time. Or other people's models fit that. Just like new construction, I don't do a lot of new construction, but I'm a garage door guy. If you own a residential garage door, chances are I can help you. Now, I definitely would love to just have your standard 2-car garage customer, an HOA customer that says, this is what I can have here. And they're not asking for this crazy stuff. But when the crazy stuff comes, we're good at it. It's the same. We're ordering it from the manufacturer and installing it, but there's a lot more things that could go wrong, like damage and stuff like that along the way. But overall, if you're not taking residential customers, if they live in a big house or a small house, what do you say to something like that? Is that something that you feel like, and I know this is not your niche, but I'm just curious because, I'm selfish. I want to know for myself.
Yeah. So, and I'll compare it to us, Tommy. So we do the Phantom style retractable style screen doors, very similar to, this experience that you're describing. I would love to go work in every condo building or seniors residence because it's perfect. They were mandated. They got to hire us. It is what it is. But I'm still going to get the people that want the old style storm door that swing open and swing closed. Just because I'm saying define your customer doesn't mean you only service that one. It means determine what percentage of your revenue mix do you want to come from that ideal person. Then market accordingly. Then determine, am I okay with 20% where it's custom and it's high end and it is what it is? If the answer to that question is yes, there's nothing wrong with that. It's simply identifying that you don't want to grow there. You're not going to devote resources there. And if the opportunity comes up to say, hey, I want somebody to come do 78 custom doors for me, well, am I comfortable with that level of risk? You just need to have that conversation with yourself.
So let me get this. I'm trying to understand. This is a really, really good topic, and I think you're going to answer a lot of questions here. So you define your client and you realize what they are. Now, Google Organic will not allow you to say, I want to hit a 48-year-old woman that's her birthday's next week. You can do some of that stuff with data and Facebook and stuff, or used to be able to. It's changing now. But you figure out, how do you determine your marketing mix once you define your customer?
So for us, it was a lot of A/B testing. It was a lot of, spending a lot of time and a lot of resources figuring out how do we attract that best customer. And for us, we're looking for a client very similar to the one that you described, dual income, $130,000, $140,000 a year, 2 kids. And we did a lot of testing to understand what kind of purchasing behaviors do they have? What time of day are we getting the most calls? And for us, it was really COVID that actually accelerated our ability to find that person. We discovered that very quickly, being able to quote, book appointments, and deal with any kind of questions or comments between 8 and 10 p.m. was crucial to getting that customer. So we went to our call center team and we said, okay, look, we've got shifts between 8 and 10. We need these covered because that's when our customers want service. And boom, provided it. Nobody else would. And here you are. So for us, it was just a lot of testing different advertising channels through social media, through Google. We even started doing, to my vein, we started doing traditional advertising in TV. But we discovered very quickly that that's where the clients were finding us. We tried it all, we tested it, and we tracked it really well. And here we are.
You said TV is the best?
TV surprised the heck out of me. I got to tell you, I did not anticipate it to have the uptick that it did. But traditional TV was great for us.
Well, here's a little note on TV. COVID happened, and what happens when local marketers drop out of anything, the price goes down. There wasn't an election going on. So what I'm guessing is, and I don't know the Canadian election, so I don't know for sure, but I know that your local movie theater wasn't advertising because they weren't open. I know that a lot of the local community, so 5 times less people advertising, they lowered the price 5 times. And then where's everybody at? Where do you think they were?
Yes,
they were at home watching TV. Yep. They're at home watching TV. So we tried the TV campaign for shits and giggles, and I was amazed by how much the viewership was up 5 times. and it's 5 times cheaper. That's 25 times the effect.
Yep.
It's pretty cool how that works. So, I love this conversation because a lot of people, they don't know who their clients are. They have no idea. They never define their avatar. You know what's crazier to me, Steven? Most people don't know who their employees are, who their perfect technicians are. Let me ask you that. It's kind of switching marketing on its ass, but who's your perfect technician and how do you market towards them?
You know what? And because we've got so many lines of business here, that answer, Tommy, to be honest with you, changes business to business. But we've done a lot of work to understand the ideal technician kind of globally. And to be frank with you, it's somebody who's never worked in home improvement. I love to hire people who come from customer service backgrounds, hospitality, whether it's restaurants, hotels, anybody who's used to solving a client concern or complaint. I can teach anybody how to use a drill. I can teach anybody how to use a miter saw. I cannot teach soft skill. The only thing that will teach that is time, and it's time that I don't physically have to invest in that person. So we hire a lot outside of home improvement, outside of trades. That being said, I don't have a red seal trade, and I don't intend to have a red seal trade under the Mosaic umbrella. We're not plumbers. We're not HVAC people. We're not electricians. We're not carpenters. So
garage doors.
Just kidding. So, but if you're in those kinds of trades, this becomes significantly harder. You don't necessarily have the same access to client or to talent that we do. For us, it came down to identifying very clearly that we across the board are not necessarily for everyone. And that started as an external marketing message that we said, you know what, we're not for everybody, but it really resonated internally. And we started to see that when we started to really have dialogue about how our business is for this key set of people, it was much easier to find people, to retain people, and to give people agency to say, hey, we're not for this customer. And all of a sudden, boom, retention went way up.
You're not for this customer. So that's the ability to say no to things that might seem like a lot of money, but just really is not up your alley.
Exactly.
Okay. So let me just ask you, you guys, you've got these niches, and I love the idea of the niche because you don't need an apprentice for 5 years like you do for a plumber. You're not dealing with a lot of the unions like we deal with in like Chicago. Well, let's do this. I got an idea. Have you been involved in any of the interviews?
I haven't, no.
Okay.
So sorry,
you've never interviewed one of these guys.
You mean interviews with staff?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yes. Sorry. I didn't understand your question, but absolutely. Yeah. I've interviewed many staff. Okay.
So let's interview me, and you're my, I'm coming to work at Mosaic. A lot of the people listening to the podcast, this is really to deliver as much value as possible. I don't know if you got everything right in your mind right now, but let's just run through how an interview might look. First of all, I don't know if this is giving up any trade secrets or anything. So if it is, you can stop me. But number one is, where do you find the people? Are you just all over Indeed and all the Zip recruiters of the world and LinkedIn, or are you doing it on social media? Or you got job headhunters? What's the best way you found to recruit?
The vast majority of our team are referrals. Now, that took a long time to get there, where it's referrals from internal staff. So when we first started, it was absolutely, we were everywhere. It was Indeed, Monster, Kijiji, which I don't know if you have in the States or not, but Facebook. We were all over the place looking for people. And I always start with a phone interview, and I always start with just a simple question of, where are you working now? Or if you've given me a resume, why aren't you working, or why are you looking to make a change? And typically I get some kind of background or some insight into that individual, why they're looking for employment.
So right now I'm at a garage door company. Let's just go through this. So let's take one of your franchises. What's one of the businesses off the top of your head that you like?
So right now I'm hiring for a company called Screen Savers. We supply and install screen windows and screen doors.
So I'm going to take one of my older jobs, really old jobs. So, I'll tell you this, Steven, I'm a busboy here at Cheesecake Factory. It's a great job, but with the pandemic, it just really, I wasn't able to work from home. Obviously I can't bust tables when the place is closed. I consider myself a great employee. I worked there for a long time. They used to give a little green note when you did a good job, and it was basically a free meal. And I used to get at least one every shift. I think it's important to do stuff when no one else is looking, and that's what I pride myself on. I heard about Mosaic, and I really thought it might be right up my alley.
Sure. So Tommy, that's awesome, and I'm sorry to hear that the position's been eliminated. But when one door closes, another one opens. So thanks for applying. I appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking to accomplish, or any goals that you have out of your next place of employment. What are you looking to achieve?
Yeah, great question. I think that, I'm a millennial, so overall, I'm right at the edge of a millennial. I really just think it's important that I'm included. I want growth. My goals are to own a house one day. My credit score is okay. I want to increase my credit score. One of the things is I'd like to have a family one day. I'm a younger guy. I'm a competitive guy. I like to drive. I like to know what the score is because I like to win, and that's a little bit about me. And whatever your expectations are, I'd like to overdo them.
Okay. So Tommy, you said something interesting there. Tell me about growth. You said, I want growth. I want a place to grow, and I want to, you've got some really big ambitious goals there, which is awesome. You want to buy a house, you want to start a family. That's awesome. Tell me about the growth that you want for yourself or for your career. Tell me more about that.
I never really went to a lot of school. I graduated. I was a 3.5 in high school. I didn't really get a chance to go to college. I just jumped into work because my dad always taught me, he'd had me read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I always thought school is becoming less and less valuable, and learning more of the trades is important. And this is what that opportunity seems to be. So, Stephen, for me, what it means is that there's a place to move up in the company. So if I start out as an apprentice of some sort, maybe there's a junior position, and then maybe I can move into a senior position. And I'm just interested in continuing to be trained and continue to better myself. And if there's a spot on the bus that I can continue to move up, I think this is exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. And that's, Tommy, that's exactly what we look for, right? I want somebody who wants a career, because we're a growing organization. And typically in an interview, I start talking about who we are as a group, and whether it's somebody's applying for Mosaic or applying to one of our brands. It's important at this point that I start to describe where we're going, and then we have a bit of a discussion about, okay, well, here's where I'm going and here's where you're going, and it's kind of like we're dating. Are we compatible or not? Because an interview that's only one-sided, where I just sit here and pepper you with questions, is no good to anyone. It's just you trying to figure out what I want to hear. It's my job as much as it is yours to sell the business. And that's where I found we picked up a lot of great team members when I was able to describe that vision of where the business is going and give someone a path right in the room. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to get good people.
And on the opposite side of that, because I've been the guy interviewing and probably talked too much, where I'm like, by the way, what is it that you've done in the past? I've literally tried to be like, oh my God, this guy seems awesome. And then just boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, so I think there's a happy medium. And I'd say if I had to pick, and this is just, I never read this is just randomly, I'd say I'm talking 35% of the time. They're talking 65% of the time. I don't know. If you had to pick a random formula, what would you say would be the ratio?
No, I think that's a perfect ratio. And for me, it's just keep it focused and bullet point, like on the goal. What is the goal of the organization? What you got to be crystal clear with that new person to say, this is where we're going. And if you can do that, or the clearer you can do that, the easier your time's going to be.
One of my things that I say too is, you could go to HVAC school, you're going to spend a lot of money, and you're going to work as an apprentice for 5 years. Same thing for a lot of the trades. What's nice is we'll pay you. You could take this anywhere. You go to Australia, you could go to the UK, you could go anywhere in the world, Canada, you go to Mexico, you go to South America, and you'll get paid to learn this trade. And it is a really rewarding trade. And for some reason, when I got into garage doors, I learned all these things, like it's 40% of your curb appeal, and it's the smile of your home, and all these cool things. But, interestingly enough, at Mosaic, you've got a job title, Creator of Solutions and Opportunities. And I want to dig into that because I love the sounds of that. I already want your job, but I don't know exactly what it is. But can you define exactly what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of the founding partners here. I'm an owner, but ultimately I sat down and we all sat down as a team, not just our ownership group, but everybody who works. So they sat down and said, look, what do I really like to do? And that was a very long process, took a couple of weeks, but we had a lot of deep thought, a lot of deep conversation about it. I looked at my day and I looked at a calendar for a month and said, what do I spend my time doing? And what do I enjoy doing? And what do I, go home and talk to my wife about at the end of the day? And the answer was I solve problems all day, every day. My job is to solve problems for my customers, solve problems for my staff. And those aren't bad problems. They're good problems. My customer called and said, hey, I've got this new project and I really need your help on it. Or a team member called and said, hey, I want to develop a new career path, or I want to grow, or I want to do X, Y, and Z. My job is to solve those problems and to create new opportunities.
Solve the problems and create opportunities. So, for example, I'm probably going to be getting into everything garage doors. It just makes sense. Storage solutions, epoxy. I wanted to master one thing. I think so many people, they're yes people. They say, oh, there's an opportunity. Yes, 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 yes. For me, it's how do I get more garage door leads? I'm really good at garage doors. So if I get an epoxy lead, chances are I'm going to be working on their garage door. I'll change out their bottom rubber. If I'm working on their storage, they're going to need a new opener to get out of the way. So I'm actually improving my core business by getting into other things, and it's a cheaper lead acquisition cost.
Exactly.
And I think people miss that point. And you talk a lot. Number 4 on your list was cross sale, and I'm interested in knowing how you gather that information and how you understand that symbiotic relationship.
So for us, it's a lot of simply having conversations with your core customer. If you're there doing epoxy, talk to your homeowner, talk to your client, stand there and say, look, what other services do you hire? Because odds are if you're going to hire somebody to, for example, in our example, wash windows. Well, if you're going to hire somebody to wash your windows, odds are you probably hire somebody to cut your grass too. And if the answer to that question is yes, and that's my core customer, well, here's a really easy way for me to decrease the cost of my leads. Similar to your example with TV, where it's 5 times cheaper and 5 times more people watching. Every time I use that lead over and over again, the cost of acquiring it went way down. It's gone from 40 to 20. And I let's say I sell one more thing. Now it's all the way down and down and down and down. So that cross sale is incredibly important, and it's the easiest way to get it, because people ask me all the time. Just ask for it. Just simply ask that homeowner, what else can I do for you?
It's interesting because I talked to one of the partners of the equity group that built the fund for Neighborly. Are you familiar with who Neighborly is?
Very familiar.
And, my buddy Kevin Wilson had a company called Mosquito Joe's that sold to Neighborly. And I really got to fly out there and learn their business model is simple. It's own that customer for multiple. There's 3 ways to grow. You get more customers. You keep more. So you get more customers. You charge your customers more, or you keep them coming back more often. Those are really the only 3 ways to grow. So how do you charge them more? You don't do it by just charging them more for your specific niche. You charge them more by doing everything in their house.
That's right.
So I feel like the franchise model says we're going to get a lot of customers. We're going to keep a lot of customers on that. But it also says I'm going to own multiple verticals within their home. So exactly. I do like the idea that some people come to me and they go, dude, if you knew how to franchise and you knew the business, you never look back. And then I got other people that say you're dealing with a lot of things like the SEC and there's certain things that could come down. So, or the F. What are some of the governing?
This is the CRA and there's lots of different regulations up here. We're not quite as heavily regulated as the States. And what's interesting up here is that the provinces are very similar, whereas when you look at the States, there's different regulation and reporting requirements, right next door to you guys. So it's very challenging in the U.S. market. So,
I don't know much about Canada, but it seems like the smartest people. It's a great country, and I always have people. It's weird how every third person's from Canada. Danny Kerr lives in Canada do you know Danny Kerr?
I don't.
There's a lot. I won't go into it because I go down a rabbit hole right now of all the Canadians. But what are the differences between the provinces that you need to worry about?
You know what? There are different reporting requirements. What's interesting up here is there's different hold periods for FDDs. So, similar to a car loan or a mortgage, you have to hold on to that loan for so many days to prove that you've given it rational thought. There are different reporting requirements or hold requirements for British Columbia compared to Alberta, compared to Saskatchewan. So there's just little intricacies there, but in terms of accounting, everything's the same. In terms of reporting to the federal and provincial governments, everything's the same. It's very different than Delaware versus Utah versus California versus, there's lots of different legality there in the States.
So one of the things that I would love to hear for a lot of listeners out there is, most guys get together and they get with their wives or their best friend and say, hey, we've mowed lawns for a long time. Let's start a landscape company. Or we've done this. We've been the technician. It's the E-myth, right? We're the technician, but they've never been the manager or the entrepreneur. Tell me a little bit about when you and your other founders came together, because it sounds to me that it was much more planned. There was an org chart. There was accountability. There was finding the right bookkeeper. There was a CRM. Like, it sounds like this is exactly what Kevin Wilson told me is I took the best marketer, the best this, the best this, the best this, and built a team to go in and dominate. And it sounds like that's what you guys did.
Yeah, you know what, Tommy? I would say we're a bit of a mix. We plan. We spend a lot of time evaluating what business lines and what services we want to be in. We spend a lot of energy saying, how do we become the Neighbourly of Canada? However, we're still very gritty and entrepreneurial in the way that, some days I come in here and I feel like we're building the airplane as we're flying it. Just like anybody who's listening to this owns their own business or works in their own business, some days you just have days like that. Our ultimate goal is a very big and hairy one. We want to be Canada's largest home improvement franchise network, and we're not going to get there without the best people in the country. So for some key positions, marketing, finance, president of the company, we've absolutely gone out and we've cherry picked and we've found great people that have experience doing exactly what we want to do. But a lot of our leadership team started on the tools. Myself included. My job was pulling nails out of boards for a nickel a nail. You can't have all of one and none of the other. You need to have a group of really passionate people that understand the trade and a group of really passionate people that understand the business.
I agree. That there's a notion of, well, for example, when I went in the Nexstar, it's a great group for HVAC, plumbing, electrical. They had a plot of a big circle of each personality, and I think you need a little bit of everything. And a lot of times, private equity companies, what they do is they'll measure every single senior manager on the team, and they'll find a big shortage in one sphere. And once they add a bunch of management to that, the company quadruples. And I think it's important to have that good balance. You mentioned one thing earlier that I wanted to touch back that I look at my notes is, how do you guys manage and what do you guys use for your referral program, if that seems to be the biggest talent acquisition?
For talent acquisition or for customer acquisition, we have the exact same. And what's funny is a lot of our internal marketing and external marketing are the exact same. For referrals, a lot of people look to do discounts, whether it's an internal referral or an external referral. Hey, refer me a neighbor or a friend, and I'll give you 10 or 20% off. And we stopped doing that very intentionally because we are not a discount provider. We don't do discounts across our whole business. Instead, what we do is charitable donations. If somebody refers us a team member or a client, we will donate $25 to our charity of the month. Every month we pick a new one, and we kind of have a running total throughout the month. And at the end of the month, we cut a check for $5,000 or $6,000 and post it up on social media. Say, hey, look, I'm sorry I didn't give you $10 off your window washing service, but you helped 2 kids go back to school. And, like it or not, there are some customers that look at that and say, well, you could just give me $10 off. But ultimately, I'm sorry, we're just not for everybody.
So you're telling me that you never, ever, ever give any type of discounts off your price book?
As of today, no. And moving forward, no. As we built our business, we did, and it led to a ton of headaches. It led to the Groupon coupon cutters, the folks that were always looking for a nickel and dime, always looking for a scratch, always looking for a dent. And we 100% cut it out of our business.
I got to move to Canada, man. But you know what? Being in Arizona, a lot of people make a lot of money. And the Canadians come down here for half the year, just under 6 months. And it's interesting because I got to tell you, they're the best customers, man. They're just like, whatever it costs, they don't ask for a discount. It's just weird like that, but it's something I definitely could relate to. But, for me, what I've learned about recently is rather than a discount, extend the warranty and say, listen, if you are a veteran or you are elderly or whatever it might be, here's what I could do. It doesn't always need to be a monetary return. I was surprised to hear that on a double-blind study in garage doors out of 500, that price was number 10 of the most important things. But it really depends. If you're Walmart, price is really important. If you're Target, price is not as important. And understanding your avatar, like you talked about, as your first more important thing in the 4C is really what that comes down to be. And let me ask you this. When you're doing business and all these other businesses, I think you'll find that, for example, you gave the example cutting lawns. You'll find that cutting lawns might be really profitable, but maybe there's something else like trimming trees is not, or the arborist that works on the water that the tree gets, or for example, the sprinkler system. I'm curious to know, because it's kind of, when the landscaper comes out, you're like, set the sprinklers, fix my drip system, do my sprinklers, or to fix my sprinklers, cut the bushes. I want everything edged. I want this area weed whacked properly. How do you kind of stay away from all of it?
So a great example of this one is window washing. We're washing windows. We're cleaning out the gutters. Sally says, "Hey, I got to fix this piece of gutter." All of a sudden you're hit with this opportunity to say, "Okay, yeah, I can charge you for the repair, but now I'm going to Home Depot. I'm picking up product. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And what happens if it falls off the house one day, or what happens if my tech doesn't know how to do it?" There's so many little intricacies in every line of business. Doesn't matter if it's lawn care or window washing or putting up Christmas lights. There's little pieces that you just don't understand until you're in it. So if you're already in it and you've lived that life, I'm willing to bet that you've taken the time to figure out who you are for and who you're not for and how to say no. The best thing you can do is find a referral partner. Find somebody who's really good at what you don't do and work together. We made the very silly mistake early on to say, yeah, we're going to fix all the gutters that are broken. Oh, what a mistake that is. Fixing gutters or doing new gutters on new houses, way different than cleaning them. You need a cube van and a crimper and a cutter and metal on hand. And there's a million different things that you need for that business. Similar to, now I'm going to trim the tree. Well, now I need a chainsaw. Did I need a chainsaw before? No, it didn't need a chainsaw before. I needed a lawnmower and somebody to push it. You need to really narrow down the same way that you're narrowing down on your customer. You got to narrow down on what that customer wants and be excellent at it. And once you're there, then maybe think about doing some other things. Until you get to that point, find somebody that you love that's great and refer them. And that's been a successful strategy for us.
I think there's somebody listening right now. I don't know if it's online, but I think that when this gets published, there's going to be someone that's listening to this that knows they need to make a change. And there's somebody going to be saying, maybe I'm too broad. Maybe I say yes too much. Maybe I just, every single penny that's out there, if I can make a dime, I'll do it. And I think if this message is going out to you right now and you're listening and you're one of thousands of people, do something about it. Go home tonight, talk to your significant other, and start making moves, because these guys have 8 franchises and they figured out something that most people don't figure out in a lifetime. So please, if you're listening to this, you start niching. I talked to a really smart guy the other day. I'm not going to go into details, but he did some amazing things at hospitals, and he worked for a guy that owned 100 hospitals. And he said the average hospital profitability is about 3%. He said, so they studied and they figured out what were the loss leaders. The emergency room, unless you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, is not very profitable. So they got other hospitals around there. They bragged to them and they said, hey, Mr. Steven, you guys are so good at handling emergency. We're going to put an ambulance at our location. And we're going to drive them right to you. You're going to have all the emergency room. Then they figured out long time inpatients were bad. So like they do the surgery, then they need 60 days to recover. They figured out when you're under the knife, they make a lot of money. And believe it or not, I'm sorry, but there are hospitals for profit. People don't believe that. It's crazy to them. It's crazy that capitalism is for profit. But anyways, what they did is they got very short-term surgeries, got the people out within 3 days, and then they sold a percentage of each hospital, 1%, to the best surgeons that refer to the hospital. And they went to 44%, 3.5% to 40 some odd. So all they needed to figure out was they looked and they were able to decipher in their business different units and measure where they made the most money and focused in on that. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, Steven.
Absolutely. Don't chase the revenue number. You shouldn't care if you have a $500,000 business, a $200,000 business, a $2 million business. The only number that matters is the bottom line, and that's it. Choose what you love to do. Remember why you got into your business and go do that all day. Don't turn your lawn care company into a landscaping company. They're two different things.
Adam Johnson just put thanks for sharing. He soaked in all the info shared. And I want to say Pest Control is perfect because today I saw a roach. I see scorpions, roaches. It's pretty common in the house. And there's other people that specialize. I had a guy on the podcast, there's something confidential, and these guys have dogs that sniff out bed bugs in commercial spaces. That is an awesome niche. The dogs can go find where the bed bugs are. But I don't imagine him that he's a little bit of jack of everything. He's a very niche. Then there's other guys that just do general spraying. And there's other people that have mice problems. And there's other ones with, there's all these problems within pest control. And a referral partner sounds like a great thing for that niche that you make a little bit of money on too.
Yep, absolutely. And you can make a little bit of money, set up a referral network, go to your local BNI chapter, go to your local chamber of commerce, find somebody who's great, because I guarantee you what's going to happen, even if they're a competitor, even if you look at them and say, oh, I'm giving work to a competitor, similar to your hospital story, who cares? It's work you don't want. Fill them up with it so that you get the work you want.
Yeah. I guarantee you 20% of your 20% of your business is 90% of your problems. We looked at Home Depot. We looked at Adam had pointed out some things and he brought the facts to me. And when you bring the facts to me, I said, that's it. We're out. We're done. I didn't need to think about it. This is the facts. Look, you bring me the KPIs that shows me. And I said, boom, done. And I talked to another guy at this is probably 8 years ago. We were at a meeting for the industry garage doors. And he says, Tommy, I got out of Home Depot last year. He goes, I made a fortune revenue with Home Depot, but I made zero profit. And until I got out of Home Depot, till I realized where my real profit was coming from, he goes, we were making 3 times the profitability, half the stress, half the customers.
Yep.
And here's one thing about my pets or the Christmas light business, which I'm in the process of getting bought out of, because quite honestly, these guys are doing amazing work. I'm so focused on my business and just helping with the Home Service Expert podcast that I don't want to do 25 things, but I learned a lot from that business. I said, we need to charge more. I said, in fact, we need to double our prices. So we doubled our prices. And I always say this, 40% of the customers dropped off, but we had 120%, but we made way more revenue and way more profit. Yep. And now we have a minimum at the company. It's $2,000 per home.
Perfect.
People can't believe that. They go, geez, who's going to spend that on Christmas lights? Let me tell you something. You got kids, you got money, you don't want to do it, and you're successful. You're dealing with people that are successful that don't complain. The people that spend the most money leave 5-star reviews and you never hear from them again.
Exactly.
People that spend $200, They're like, oh my God, I want to use my own Christmas lights. Holy crap. What a mistake.
Absolutely.
I love this lesson. This is so important. Love this. This is very, very good. Talk to me a little bit about the people that are thinking about, man, I got a good business. I'm a good niche. I got a good thing going. I'm killing it in my city. It's not a big business. It's not a 10 million, but it's easy. I could get $1 million business going and I want to franchise it. What's the next steps?
Oh boy. Well, the first thing to do is take a week off. Leave the business, walk out the front door, and see what happens. Because in order to franchise this new location that you start, wherever you started, whether it's 10 minutes down the road or 3 states over, it needs to operate without you. So step number 1, do a litmus test. Walk out the front door, turn your phone off, turn your email off, come back a week later and see what's broken. That is the first step to figure out, how do I get to franchise? I love The Founder, fantastic freaking movie about McDonald's and how and it's the most important lesson, that you got to be able to flip the burger the same way every time. You got to be able to squeeze the ketchup the same way every time. And if you can't do that, your business is not ready. So the first thing you do, if you're having a great day and it's Friday and you're on the golf course and things are great, do not go into work on Monday. Take a week off, come back, see what's broken, then fix it, and then do it again and again and again, and then come back in a year and say, okay, now we're actually legitimately ready.
It's funny because I got this book on my desk by Ray Kroc called Grinding It Out. I just grabbed it because I haven't gone through it yet, but it's got the smallest font I've ever seen. But it came out in 1977. I'm really interested in reading it. I got to tell you that most of the people listening probably think you're on drugs, because if they walk out of their building today and they come back a week later, it'll be on fire. But I got to tell you, the nice thing that people say about me is they love it when I leave for 2 weeks. Because, here's the problem with me is I'm always hitting the gas. I'm like, faster, let's do better. I love what you hear about Steve Jobs is he came back and he came back in the office of the R&D when they came out with the first Macintosh unit. And they said, boss, wait till you see this. You're going to be so proud of us. And he looks at them and he goes, great job, guys, but it doesn't load fast enough. I need it to cut in half the speed of how fast it loads. And they said, sir, that's not possible. He said, you guys will figure it out. I have faith in you. They came back and they did it. And I think everybody needs somebody to push them. The other day, I needed to get out of one of my units. I needed to get stuff out of there because my buddy's making it in an Airbnb. He gave me a deadline and we got it done. The team here got it done. Deadlines, accountability, consistency, just those are the things that drive. And I think being a good leader is the ability to drive deadlines and accountability and expect more from everybody. I have guys that do amazing, that are the top producers in the company, by far the top. Yep. And I push them even harder. Tom Brady had 4 coaches. Look, Jordan, Tiger Woods, they have 4 coaches. The third string has 1 or not even 1. So you got to push your top people harder, because they can perform more than you ever understand. Why is it, Steven, that the top performers just get to ride solo and no one talks to them anymore? Most companies.
Yeah, well, a lot of companies manage to the lowest common denominator, and I'm sorry, they just do. They try and grind it out. This guy will get better. This girl will get better. You're right. They probably will, but what is your time worth? And you just got to be able to ask yourself that question. A lot of, from what I've seen in my time in the home improvement industry, a lot of people build businesses because they were great at something. They're great at producing widgets, or they're great at painting walls, or they're great at putting garage doors in. To be an entrepreneur and a business owner, you need to be great at that, maybe, but more importantly, you need to be good at making other people better. It's your job to push and to get the most out of people, the same way that your Steve Jobs example does. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, whether you're in a niche business or not. Nobody cares if you're the best one putting paint on the walls. The only way you're going to grow is if you teach somebody else how to do that.
The ability to coach is probably, I don't like the word management, because management to me, I never really had a really amazing manager. I've had great coaches in my life, coaches that held me accountable, that helped me grow as a person in and outside of the game. So I think becoming a great coach takes their home life You know what I do? Last Thursday, I talked a lot about home ownership, good credit scores, passive income. Not You don't deserve that big trailer or motorcycle or whatever. You say you worked hard for 10 years and you deserve to go into deeper debt. But you don't deserve it. Your family doesn't need it. It's actually a fallacy that you've been lied to your whole life. You might have some fun. Go out with a buddy of yours, go into it because you're only going to use it twice a year and start putting your money into things. And I love the fact I can truly say this, Stephen, is I want my every single one of my employees to be a homeowner, to have the better things in life, to be able to have financial freedom. I don't want them to be dependent on me. I want them to have freedom and want to be with me. I like the story of, there's two kings. There's the good king and the bad king. The bad king, he collects taxes out of fear. The good king, he says, contribute if you want because we win together. And I love that story, but for some reason the bad kings still are successful. There's nobody likes them, and that's the scary fable that we've been through in our lives. And I don't like to lead like that. What kind of tips would you give to become a better leader in your company?
You know what? To the point that you made, a couple of minutes ago, just simply be human. Just be a human being. Like if you've got a problem with somebody, sit them down and have a conversation with them and just say, "Bud, you know what? I got a problem here, and I know that you're an intelligent human being. You work here, and I hired you. You probably know that the problem exists too. Let's just talk about it. Let's just have a conversation." Much the same as we have a conversation in the interview about what your goals are and where you want to go. They're humans. They're not scary employees. They're not going to go run out the door and report you to the IRS or whatever it is because you haven't done anything wrong. Sit down, have a conversation with people. And 9 times out of 10, the biggest kind of hurdle to growing the business and to growing people is just entrepreneurs just aren't willing to have that simple heart-to-heart conversation. Be vulnerable with your employees. If you don't know what the world has in store in the next 12 months because there's a pandemic raging or there's an election or whatever it is, be honest with them about that. They're not going to walk out the door. They're going to look at it and say, "Hey, this is a problem we all need to solve." Just be a human being. Start as a human. Don't start as a boss.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think that there are times. Don't. I love an open door policy at a certain time, but if you got a minute manager, your whole day gets torn from you. You need to keep a schedule and have good time management. Have you ever heard of a net promoter score?
Absolutely.
So it's basically, it has a lot to do with customer satisfaction, and there's also an internal net promoter score. And it's really important with a franchise, I'd imagine. Explain to me what that means to you and the team's happiness as well as the net promoter score from your customers.
Yeah, you know what? And this is actually a debate that we're having internally right now because our CRM system will allow us to send out an NPS or a request for a Google review. It won't allow us to do both. So we're kind of...
Oh, good. I want to hear this. I love it.
So we're in the middle of this kind of debate right now of what's more valuable to us. We ran NPS for the last 3 months after every service call across all of our brands, collected a whole bunch of data. NPS scores came back and lots of really good feedback, lots of really good things. Some brands off the charts, we were super happy. Some brands, oh my God, there's problems here we didn't even know about. We haven't run an NPS internally in about a year, and that's 100% my fault. COVID and excuse after excuse after excuse. But when we have done it, the feedback has been hugely helpful to identify the common trends and things that are working and things that aren't. NPS for us internally has traditionally been very high. Just, we get a lot of referrals from people and obviously it's working. But doing that NPS score, just simply taking 2 minutes to say, "Hey, would you recommend having a friend work here?" Can tell you a lot about things that people enjoy, things that people don't enjoy. And are you building career paths for people? Yes or no? That's a hugely important question.
I think more people need to do that. You mentioned CRM. Would you mind if I ask you, is it a well-known CRM or is it a custom CRM?
No, we're HubSpot as a CRM and Jobber as a home service tool, if you will. So Jobber is a program that is actually founded in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and they're local. They're amazing. We love them. They're similar to like a House Call Pro or Service Titan, and they've been great for us.
So what do you use HubSpot for? Most of the marketing, and then what do you use for accounting?
We're QuickBooks.
QuickBooks, and you're going to outgrow QuickBooks soon. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just let you know.
No problem.
So explain to me, just last thing, what do you use HubSpot for exactly? Because I'm implementing some HubSpot stuff.
HubSpot's been interesting for us, and we've got a very unique challenge in business because we've got so many different brands. So HubSpot's more of a tool for us to track our corporate location sales or corporate location cross sales between brands, customer relationship management, and some of the corporate business that we're doing. It also helps a lot with some of our email marketing campaigns, our drip campaigns, and especially when we bring a new service on, to be able to push that out in a really professional looking newsletter or email blast, hugely helpful for us. It was hard for us to find a good CRM because our business is so unique and we've got so many different things going on here.
For email blasts, I can't stop asking you questions. I'll end it here in a minute because I got a few closing questions. For email blasts, how do you keep your server clean? I've got 1 million clients, literally probably 300,000, more than that actually, probably 400 or 500. I couldn't tell you. I could look at the count, but a lot of times if they put spam because they're getting too much of it, your server starts to go to junk mail. Yep. What is one of the ways you've seen or tricks that you've done to make sure to keep your list clean and not letting that happen?
We only send information when it's truly important. We don't do a monthly, we don't do a biweekly, we don't even do a quarterly. We send it when something important has happened. And a lot of marketers would look at that and say, hey, you're freaking crazy because there's no rhythm here. But in order to cut down the, hey, this is spam button, we just, whenever there's something that's truly important, a new service offering or a new update or a COVID thing, that's when we send it, and it needs to have legitimate value. Otherwise, people are just going to report
it. One of the ideas I'm toying with is putting their job number and their address in the top of the subject line, and then letting them know an update about whatever, and then just having them opt in. So a double opt in, because there's some ideas, but when you're sending out as much as I am, it's good to keep things clean. I got just some close-up questions for you, Stephen, if you don't mind.
Please.
All right. So if someone wants to reach out to you, learn more about franchises, or just learn more about your company, what's the best way to reach out?
You can go to getmosaic, GETMOSAIC.ca. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and to connect with me, LinkedIn is the best way to get a hold of me. I'm the Stephen Knight from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and that's the best way to get a hold of all of us. We keep pretty regularly updating on the Mosaic website with all of our different brands and what new franchise locations we're opening and what franchises are for sale.
I got a buddy of mine who he bought me the A1Garage.ca, and I'm really fortunate to have him to do that for me. So that was recently. Let me ask you this. What are 3 books that really were impactful, but don't do E-Myth? Let me tell you what not to do. Don't do E-Myth. Don't do How to Win Friends and Influence People. Don't do The Ultimate Sales Machine. I could probably go out. Don't do 4 Disciplines of Leaders. Don't do 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. But give me 3 books that really changed your life.
Okay, well, you took a lot of the good ones away. I really, really liked, I'm looking at my bookshelf now. I loved The Infinite Game, Simon Sinek. His newest book was awesome. I liked Scaling Up, Vern Harnish, and this isn't my 3rd book, but The Rockefeller Habits was even better than Scaling Up, even though it happened the other way around. Those are both incredible, amazing. The last one is actually Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. That was a fantastic mountain of a book, but I loved it.
Awesome. And, we talked about a lot of things today, and there's a great possibility I left some really good, strong pieces out there. If I gave you, I'm going to give you the next few minutes just to give the audience whatever you want them to hear, just something to pump them up, maybe some courses of action to take, but anything that's on your mind that can help them in their home service niche.
You know what? The biggest thing to take away, if you didn't listen to anything else, is simply to look at what brings you joy in your work life and go do it. Whether that's a specific niche or the reason you got into your business or a specific type of employee or person that you like to work with, just focus on what you like. Don't spend 90% of your time on 10% of your customers. Life is simply too short. Focus on who you want your customer to be. Focus on what you want your profit center and your revenue to be, and go do it. Nothing else matters.
I love that. You heard it here, folks. Well, listen, Stephen, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on. It sounds like you got a lot going on over there to be the complicated title, but creator of solutions and opportunities. And thank you so much. And we'll definitely check back in with you and get you back on down the line here.
Awesome. Tommy, thanks for having me. And thanks to anybody who took some value away. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.